With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
Hotel Distill raises a glass to Louisville's bourbon past by bringing refinement and luxury to the famed Whiskey Row. At Hotel Distill, guests will step into a modern space through a historic facade where gracious service and modern amenities flow like the bourbon once barreled on our historic site. Behind the storied facade of the former JTS Brown & Sons barreling warehouse, a refined bourbon culture is celebrated nightly with a complimentary 7:33 p.m. toast as a nod to Repeal Day in the year 1933. Hotel Distill is setting the standard for luxury for Louisville hospitality.
Limestone Farms bourbons are like a secret portal to a world of rich flavors where high proof meets smooth satisfaction. Every barrel is meticulously crafted and blended with a specific message in mind. Experience clean delineated flavor profiles that will have you engaged from the first sip to the final drop, making your palate beg for just one more taste. Limestone Farms, bringing heritage home.
Bourbon Life listeners, it's time we all get a little toasted. With Penelope Bourbon's Toasted series, of course. This unique blend is a testament to the power of experimentation. After full maturation in a charred new American oak barrel, their bourbon is finished in a secondhand freshly toasted barrel to create a delicious variety of chars and toasts with deep vanilla and caramel notes. No matter your preference, there's a toasted blend for you. Start your one-of-a-kind experience at penelopebourbon.com.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, it is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how are you doing down there at the end of the Bourbon Life table?
Mark, I'm great. And we're at the table.
We are at the table.
We're here, we're at the table. Everything's going great, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hanging in there, man. Birthday week. Woo!
That's right. Big birthday week for you.
That's
and
right.
It sounds like you've given a little bit of your voice out celebrating early.
Yeah, sorry about that. Some our listeners are probably going to be like, oh, turning this one off. No, I'm just kidding, guys. They won't do that. They love us. Hopefully, as I drink more bourbon, though, it'll clear up. Is that right?
I don't know. On our last episode, as you drank more bourbon, I don't think you got any clearer.
Yeah, we won't even talk about that. But that was a whole nother experience. But yeah, man.
Anyway.
Birthday week. So this show comes out on my birthday on Friday. So this is a big week, man. I'm excited about it. So, but enough about that, man. We got a great show lined up. I'm really excited about this. We had planned to do this a little earlier this year. It didn't work out, but I'm glad that we were able to reschedule this. So, of course, we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support. Appreciate the support of all of our sponsors. We could not do the show without their help. So, Matt, with that said, would you like to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. Joining us, we've got a couple of Lexingtonians here, the co-founders of 10 Day Bourbon. To my right, Rob Wilson. To my left, David Thornton. Gentlemen, welcome on to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, looking forward to talking and discussing bourbon.
Yeah, man, this will be great. Now, Rob, the funny thing is, we've kind of known each other for quite a while, and I was telling Matt that you'd reached out to me several years ago, I think it was. You guys actually kind of had like a group of bourbon drinkers. Like you guys got together and you're like, man, we'd love to have you come over. And we just never managed to make that happen. But we've been talking back and forth for quite a while. And then you reached out and you're like, we're going to start a bourbon brand. I'm like, wait, what? So this is really cool. I'm excited for you guys to do this. And I'm really looking forward to getting into that.
I got that same reaction from my wife when I said that. So you're in good company.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I'm excited about this. This is going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm looking forward to tasting what you guys have here for us. And speaking of which, would one of you guys like to tell everybody what we're going to be drinking on this first round?
Sure. Go ahead, Rob.
So this is our small batch bourbon. It's 6-year juice we get out of Bardstown. It's a 70-21-9 rye mash bill.
Okay.
It's it's been a really good thing for us. We actually just won gold medal at the San Francisco
Wow, congratulations.
World Spirits competition. So that's been something cool to be able to tell people, because we get people all the time saying, man, I love your bourbon. It's so good. And I'm like, are you just saying that because you know me? And so this was kind of good to get some blind people tasting it.
Yeah.
Blind taste testers, and said it was great. So.
I was going to say, you had blind people?
Yeah.
Like they're blind people.
They can taste,
we
though.
we only need blind people. That's right. As long as you can hear, we're okay. But if you're blind, it's even better.
Yeah. It worked
Sense
out.
of taste is a lot stronger when you're blind.
That's right. And I'm just going to clarify, and we can talk about this more later when we talk more about the brand. But it's called 10 Day Bourbon. That does not mean it's aged for 10 years. This is 6-year-old bourbon, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to let everybody know that, like right off the bat, because I think some people see that name and they're like, 10 Day Bourbon, what does that mean? So we'll talk about the name a little bit later. But
Perfect.
6-year-old, this is 100 proof, right? So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, sticking with our story, which we'll get into.
We'll get into,
that's why we wanted to do 100 proof. So.
very cool. Matt, you want to tell everybody? See, I always throw it to Matt. What do you pick up on the nose, Matt?
Hey, I'll take it. I love this nose. I've really got to say, this is really, really nice. It's got like really rich, deep caramels, a little bit of like a nutty aroma, and then almost like some popcorn or like Cracker Jack kind of comes across with just like this, like a touch of bright like mint or like the rye spice kind of coming through. Yeah, to like cut through some of those darker notes on the nose, and just really plays well. It's well-rounded. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Get that typical kind of vanilla, caramel type of notes. Like you said, like Cracker Jacks, right? You get the corn mixed in with that. The very pleasant. But yeah, that you're right, man. Coming through some of that rye notes that are shining through on that as well. But yeah, 6-year-old bourbon, man. Very nice and 100 proof. Not going to melt your face off by any stretch of the imagination. Not a lot, there's no alcohol effect on this at all. And I just poured this up a few minutes ago. But yeah, that's really nice. You guys got anything you want to throw in there, add to the mix there? So you can always just say what Matt said.
I totally agree with Matt.
That's the way I usually do it. I'm just like, I agree with Matt. I'm a master of bourbon, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever Matt says. He's got the much better palate of the two. So guys, let's talk about you guys. That's the way we kind of like to do the show. We like to let our listeners know a little bit about our guests before we really jump into the brand itself. So Rob, if you want to start, just tell everybody about yourself, where you're from, your background, and a little bit how you got into the whiskey, but not too much. We'll save that story for the second round.
So I grew up in a small town, West Virginia, went to West Virginia University, and we partied pretty good up there, but I did not drink any real bourbon whiskey up there. So I came to Kentucky, to Lexington, the UK for my residency, and been here for 20 years. And I'm an ENT physician here locally. That's my kids would tell you it's a booger picker, but your nose and throat. And I have just slowly become a full Kentuckian because I've fully embraced UK basketball and now bourbon whiskey. So I feel like I'm a full member of the state right now. So.
Very nice. So you're from West Virginia. Were you from like more upstate? Or?
Yeah, over on the Ohio River. I grew up in a small town right next to Marietta, Ohio. So right on the river. So
okay. Look, I'm actually from Flatwoods, right outside of Ashland.
Oh yeah.
So grew up there, born and raised, Huntington, West Virginia, and we spent a lot of time there in Charleston, going to rock concerts. So
Flatwoods, is that where Billy Ray was from?
Billy Ray Cyrus, yeah. Or for our younger listeners, Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus, yeah. But for us older ones, the Achy Breaky Heart.
That's right, Achy Breaky. When I was in law school, one of the first job interviews I went on while I was a first-year law student, that was the first question that they asked me. They're like, do you know Billy Ray Cyrus? I should have lied and said yes. I mean, I knew who he was, but yeah. So I didn't get the job, needless to say, right? So, David, what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Absolutely. So I'm from actually next door, Paris, Kentucky, which is Bourbon County.
Yeah.
So ironically enough, which Bourbon County is actually dry. A little history there. The city's wet, but the county is actually dry for Bourbon County.
Isn't that funny?
Which is always funny because then you think about Christian County and it's wet. So I don't know. But anyway, I grew up in Paris, graduated from Bourbon County High School, went to college at Western Kentucky University. I was a Hilltopper, and then worked for a couple of years, decided to go back to school, went to dental school, did that, and then moved to St. Louis for about 10 years, so just outside of St. Louis. My wife and I were there, and one day we just decided, we missed Lexington, so we decided before the kids got much older, we were coming back to Lexington, and so we did. I never grew up a bourbon drinker. My dad did. Some of him and his friends. My dad was a dentist, and they drank a lot of Yellowstone, the big fifth, the big handles of the cheap Yellowstone. There was a lot of nights they'd sit around and drink that and had fun. I never could stand it. It was a little bit too harsh for me at the time, but drank some in college, the bottom shelf stuff, and those were always the fun nights, and when you drink a fifth of brown water and you feel bulletproof and do stupid things, but we make it through life. And so not until I was in outside of St. Louis, I started drinking a little bit more bourbon. I kind of got into drinking professionally, and so that's where my love affair started to really happen with bourbon was then. So, and then it just kind of evolved, and we've gotten to this point in our career. So I don't practice dentistry anymore. I did for a long time, had my own practice, and when we moved back here in 2010, my wife and I bought a practice that just wasn't big enough for the both of us to work there. And so to save the marriage, I decided I was going to go do something else. So I started teaching and got into teaching full time at the College of Dentistry, and did that up until a couple of years ago. Got kind of burned out. I'd gotten into administration and didn't really like that. It took its toll on me. And so a friend of mine convinced me that we should open up a dental laboratory to make crowns, prosthesis, and that kind of stuff for dentists, because we knew so many dentists. And so took the leap of faith, we did that, and now we're working our butts off because it just exploded, which has been great. So between that and doing a bourbon brand, my life has gotten busier than that. When I first started in practice, I was working 3 days a week. I don't know what's happening. Now I'm working 8 days, 9 days a week. Somehow I'm crammed into a 7-day week.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys. I mean, because you're both doctors, right? Are you a dentist? You're a doctor. I mean, same difference, right? So obviously busy schedules. Yes. How is it? How do you manage to allocate the time to do both, guys?
Well, I'm very lucky as part of one of the co-founders here. There's actually 3 of us here. One of our partners can't be here tonight. We'll talk about him later. But Rob has really taken on the bulk of the stuff here. He does all the calling and really spearheads everything. This was kind of his idea to do this brand anyway. But thankfully, Rob has really, he does a lot of the work for us, so
nice.
Which has been good. So I just do some of the grunt work and show up and try to smile and look good. But Rob has really taken on.
You're the pretty face of the brand.
I brought him on for his looks. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for that smile too, right?
Yeah,
that's right. And free dental work, right?
Free dental work. That's right.
That's right. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, we all put in our time for sure, but. I guess when you say that, I say, well, I guess I got to thank my wife for letting me have this second job, because that's what it does feel like often.
Sure.
But I would say that if I tried to do this 10 years ago, my kids now are turning 18 and will be 16 in a few months. And so they kind of have so much of their own stuff, and it's, allowed me to have a little bit extra free time in my evenings. And, it's become more work than I thought. When you're building your brand, it's kind of like an art project. It was so much fun looking at all the history that I had brought to life, and had somebody helping us with the design and these things. And now all of a sudden it's a lot of work. Like, okay, now we got it. Now we got to sell it. And so there's a lot of things that you do. Just you learn. I mean, I think as we get older, like Dave alluded to, you learn to be more efficient with your time. And I think this has probably helped make me better at that.
Yeah. So, when you don't have a lot of time to mess around, you make that time count.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, because it seems like when you have more free time, it's like you find ways to kind of waste that time, right?
Yes.
But when you get busier with multiple things, and you've got to really kind of laser focus your time and your time management, you figure out how to do it. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. So you guys, neither one were really, like, you didn't grow up as a bourbon drinker, so it's kind of an acquired taste, like I think most of us, but I agree, because I went to UK, and that was the thing. You go to football games or whatever and drink. You drink bottom shelf stuff, right? I mean, you didn't have I think I remember the first time drinking like Woodford Reserve in the late 90s after they first came out, and I felt like, I'm a fancy bourbon drinker now because I'm drinking Woodford Reserve,
Well, and it's funny you say Woodford, because that's what I started first drinking when I was in it outside of St. Louis, and it was funny because Rob sent a picture tonight of our bottle sitting next to Woodford on the shelf at Liquor Barn. It's like, wow, to come full circle to think that's what I used to drink. Now this is what I drink, and it's our brand. It's pretty awesome to see that. But yeah, Woodford was my first bourbon that I really started drinking.
So was the Yellowstone like the first bourbon you think you ever had?
Oh, I'm sure.
You know it was, okay.
And I remember too, in our bar, we had, back then, that was when Blanton's was first coming around. I always thought it was a cool bottle because it had a horse on top. And my oldest brother, he's 6 years older than me. And so they were always drinking and stuff. And my dad would put a little pencil mark like where the line. Of course, by the end of the summer, that bourbon was pretty much, kind of just a tinge of brown color because he kept adding water back to it, trying to keep the level up there. But so we had some decent bourbons there, but I just was never a bourbon drinker. So,
Rob, what about, did you remember your first bourbon was? Or?
So it's funny you ask that because this is always a kind of little fun thing that I do with people. I usually ask people, hey, what do you remember, if you can go back and think, what was the first bourbon I had? What was the first bottle someone gifted me? And what was the first bottle I gifted somebody else? It's kind of like, it's just kind of these little things. And for me, the first bourbon I vividly remember because when I was in school, if you had whiskey at WVU, 99% of the time it would be, Jack Daniels. So I never really knew much difference between bourbon and whiskey. And when I matched to come to UK for residency, a friend of mine who was a resident, he was from Bowling Green. And so we were out partying, celebrating, hey, you matched an ENT. And he said, at Kentucky, he said, listen, I got to get you a bourbon. So he comes and gets me Makers. Makers.
Right. There you go.
And I remember thinking at the time, because I didn't drink much bourbon then, I was like, I don't think I'm going to drink a lot of bourbon. Which is nothing to say bad about Makers. It could have been probably anything, but I wasn't used to drinking that. But that was my first bourbon that I could officially say.
Yeah, that's funny. Mine was Rebel Yell. When I was in high school, one of my friends' dads was a pretty big drinker and had a very well stocked bar, and he had a lot of Rebel Yell, so he would not notice if it was missing because he had multiple bottles. So I'd always have a Coca-Cola with me when I'd go to his house. So I'd drink the Coke down a little bit and get that Rebel Yell and add a little bit. Matt, what was your first? Do you remember?
The first I really remember would be Jim Beam 7-year white label.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Back when it was $10 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
For a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
But age stated at 7 years.
Yeah.
And they used to sell it in the handle, too, for like $21.
The good old days, right?
Good old days.
Speaking of good old days, let's jump back and talk about this good old whiskey. Matt, what do you pick up in terms of the palate and the finish on this?
Got a nice nutty note right up front on the palate. Kind of big and bold, hits with a lot of really great flavors. It's like a roasted peanut, kind of toasted wood that come across too. That kettle corn for me carries through the palate.
Yeah.
And then the rye's making itself known on the finish. Kind of rolls into some of those baking spices like the light cinnamon, cardamoms. Just like nice drinking bourbon from palate finish, like just goes all the way through. Nose is really nice. All the flavors and aromas, they match up in my opinion. I think it drinks really well from nose to palate.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's not like there's no surprise from nose to the palate. What you're nosing is what you're gonna pick up on the palate. And again, Matt, you hit it right on the nail right on the head with that, because you get that sweet corn, caramel kind of corn type of flavor, which is that vanilla and caramel coming through with a little bit of that corn. Then it transitions from that sweet to that little bit of spice from the rye, moving into that cinnamon type of flavor and everything. So yeah, very nice. Guys, anything else to add?
I'm glad you like it.
I'm just glad you all are.
Yeah, we really liked it. And I had someone tell me a couple weeks ago that they said it's like a toasted marshmallow.
Oh,
they kept saying that. They're like, and it was funny. This friend of mine, they just like kept drinking. They're like, it's, And I said, well, all right, slow down there. We only have half this bottle left, So
gotta pace yourself. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, I bet your friends are now even friends you didn't even know you had. Right now, you started a bourbon brand. Do you find that people are like, hey?
People have come out of the woodwork,
Okay.
And it's funny because everybody thinks, oh man, you got a bourbon brand, you got bourbon. Hey, give me a bottle.
Yeah.
Give me a bottle.
Yeah.
I've got to pay for it too, just like you would. So, but,
damn 3-tier system.
It's exactly right. Yeah. But it has been good because it has reconnected myself, especially through social media, with people that I haven't talked to in a long time that have reached out and said, hey, congratulations, this is awesome, and you get back connected. And even for me, for dental school classmates that I haven't seen, going on 20 plus years, have reached out and we've hooked up, and I've, gotten them bottles and that kind of thing. We meet. And so it's been pretty fun for that part of it too.
Yeah, very cool. Rob, kind of the same experience?
Same thing, yeah. So it has been fun. Like, I've met some friends of mine I hadn't met from together from med school it was last summer, but I hadn't seen them probably in 15 years. So we all met at one of their lake houses they have, and at that point we didn't have all the bourbon in the bottle, but I brought them like some merchandise. And we were getting ready, and they have been all into it, so it's been great to just catch up with people like that. Yeah,
man, that could be a great bartering tool, right? It's like if you got a big fancy lake house, or if you got a super nice jet you could let me borrow, or you got some fancy yacht or something, we could bring the bourbon. We could hang out at your place.
I don't know, I got to tell you, I've got some neighbors that I've loaned out a few bottles to, and I'm still waiting to get back. I told them, I'd like this back at some point, but I probably should have specified this year.
Yeah. Hasn't worked out quite the way you kind of hoped, right?
That's all right. It's for sharing, right? Isn't it?
That's right. Bourbon's made for sharing. And you guys got friends, and you guys are getting out, and you guys just did some things with Liquor Barn, I believe. Correct.
We
and they are official sponsor, presenting sponsor.
That's right.
Of Bourbon Life Podcast. Yes. But yeah, I saw that. I was hoping to make it up, but wasn't able to do that. I think you guys were up here at Hamburg this past
Friday night. Yeah. No, Liquor Barn has been great. They've really been good to us so far with our brand. But yeah, we did a tasting Friday at the Hamburg store and a tasting at the Beaumont store on Saturday. We've done a few others. Rob's gone to E-Town for the Liquor Barn store there. I've gone to Bowling Green.
Nice.
About a month or two ago, I guess.
We're going over Friday to Brownsboro and Louisville, and then Saturday to E-Town again. So
that'll be this show comes out Friday, so you'll be going there today.
Friday at Brownsboro, 5 to 8, and then Saturday in E-Town, 2 to 5.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I mean, I love Liquor Barn. I mean, been a big fan of theirs for 30 plus years. I mean, so and just super thrilled that they sponsor the show. But I love to see the support they have for brands and what they do, man. So that's great to see that you guys have managed to partner up with them and do things. So, but you guys, now you've not done like single barrel picks yet, have you?
No, we're getting ready to start that this summer. So
we can talk about that more in the third. I just wanted to make sure, because I know Liquor Barn's always a big fan of doing barrel picks and things, single barrels with brands. So I was just kind of spurred that question. So let's keep that in the back of our heads.
We'll definitely talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in round 3. But speaking of rounds, we actually have just met the end of round 1 here. So Matt, final thoughts on the small batch. This is batch 2.
This is batch 2. Yeah, you're right. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it drinks really well.
6-year-old. What's the retail on this?
$79.
Yeah. Okay. 6-year-old bourbon, $79. Yeah. Can't beat that. I mean, that's really nice. I really like that. 2 thumbs up on that, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So let's take a quick break. We'll get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Rob Wilson and David Thornton from 10 Day Bourbon in just a minute.
James E. Pepper Barrel Proof Decanter Bourbon, distilled at the historic Pepper Distillery, DSP KY5 in Lexington, Kentucky. This new release, bottled in a striking recreated distillery decanter from the 1940s, has garnered high praise and accolades. Coming in at number 27 on Fred Minnick's Top 100 Whiskeys of 2023, it received a 94-point rating and was called absolutely delicious with notes of delicate hazelnut and toffee. Astor Wines, one of New York's most prestigious retailers, writes, "The whiskeys coming of age now are some of the finest from any American whiskey producer. This bourbon is arguably the most impressive you will find at this age. Available nationwide with a suggested retail price of $65. Learn more at jamesepepper.com.
The Stave Restaurant is a bourbon lover's paradise right here in the heart of bourbon country. Located at 5711 McCracken Pike in Millville, Kentucky, between Castle and Key and Woodford Reserve, Chef Kyle Klatka prepares amazing food each day that features an elevated Kentucky-inspired cuisine. With a full-service bar, great bourbon flights, and signature cocktails, the Stave is the perfect place to catch up with friends after a fun-filled day of touring the local distilleries. Be sure to check them out online at thestavekentucky.com or at Instagram and Facebook at The Stave Kentucky.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2 of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, it is my good friend, Matt. Matt, how you doing down there, man?
Good, Mark. I'm great down here. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Are you keeping up with the Giro Italia?
A little bit I am. I think from the start, it's been one man's race to lose.
I think you're right, man. So it seems like he's holding on pretty strong with that. I didn't get to watch it today, but that's kind of fun for me because since I work from home, I can just kind of turn it on my computer and let it run in the back. Are you guys cycling fans at all, or do you guys watch any? So
yeah.
Anyway,
kind of like the rest of our listeners.
I know nobody cares. They're like,
this is a conversation you and I could have off air.
Look, this is my birthday week podcast. I'll talk about anything I want to talk about.
That's right, birthday princess.
I want to talk. Yeah, exactly right. My tiara. I'm going to adjust it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always fun. I love cycling. I love watching it. So it's just kind of fun. It starts the whole summer season for me. Kind of feels like. Right?
Is it the Tour de France?
It's the Giro d'Italia, which is the first Grand Tour. Yeah. So next month or July will be the Tour de France, and then after that they'll have the Vuelta a España in Spain. So those are the three big Grand Tours. But I can find it like on Peacock, which is NBC. Anyway, I won't get down that path. But
easy there, Gizmo.
I know, Matt. What can I say? All right, man. So we are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn and the Giro d'Italia. No, just kidding. We appreciate their sponsorship. We appreciate all of our sponsors, everything they do for us. We couldn't do this show without their support, so thank you guys for everything you do. Matt, with that said, would you like to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. Back with us for the second round here, we have David Thornton, Rob Wilson, the co-founders of 10 Day Bourbon here in Lexington, Kentucky. Gents, welcome on back for the second round of the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thank you for having us for round two.
Yeah. I guess we should say 2/3 of the co-founders, right?
Yes, correct.
We're missing your third co-founder as well.
We're missing our silent partner.
He's remaining silent tonight.
He's
for
very
sure.
silent.
The invisible swordsman.
We keep him locked away. He's the one with the money, so we just get him out when
there
we
you
need,
go.
need
Yeah.
funding.
Does he have a jet? Can we just ride on the jet? Can we just go there?
We wish.
Oh, man. So, well, guys, this round, we got something else poured up. So, David, whoever wants to tell us about this round.
So this is our high rye. It's a single barrel. That beauty right there. It's a 6-year bourbon as well, and this one has barely a bourbon because it's a 51% corn.
Yeah, barely legal.
Barely legal, and then 45% rye and 4% malted barley. But anyway, single barrel. Just released it actually Friday. It's only going to be sold at Liquor Barn.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
The Liquor Barn stores around the state. So that's the only place we'll be able to find that.
Gotcha.
Right now.
So let's just quick question on that because this is a single barrel. So the first one was a batch. So you blended some barrels together for that. So what was the difference? What made you guys decide to go with single barrel on this?
Luck of the draw, actually. When we decided to bottle, we actually bottled this first, and we just did a single barrel just to see how things were going to go. And then we just put it in storage. We didn't want to release it. We wanted to release the small batch first.
Gotcha.
And so then it finally dawned on us that, hey, this is actually a single barrel. we did bottle a single barrel. We need to market it as such. So we had to come back and put that little sticker on there as such for single barrel. And we're going to try to do that with this high rye is keep them single barrels. Hopefully all of them taste as good as this one. So
awesome.
It's like when we started tasting it, we said, wow, this is really good. And then we said, well, it was a single barrel. Why don't we, let people know that and market that, let people know that what it is. So yeah.
Very, very nice. And this is available at Liquor Barn.
At Liquor Barn.
Okay. Good to know, man. And the green label, at first it threw me off because I saw that. I'm like, wait, is that a rye? Because you think obviously the green, but it makes sense because it is a high 45% rye. And this one's 100 proof as well, right?
100 proof.
Yeah. Okay.
And we did that to keep in tradition with the bottled in bond during Prohibition. Had to be 100 proof. So that's why it goes with our story.
And it's sourced from the same source?
Yes.
From someplace in the bourbon capital of the world.
Bourbon capital of the world. That's correct.
That should be the name of your basement down here.
The bourbon capital of the world.
Look around and see all the bottles of bourbon down here.
Yeah. There's a lot more hiding away.
You've just scratched the tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg.
I do notice that a lot of them are empty over there, though.
Yeah, I'm doing my part.
Doing your part.
Yeah.
Doing my part to support the industry. I'm the unofficial ambassador of bourbon.
All bourbon.
One man show. Yeah, all the bourbon. That's right. So, guys, let's talk about let's talk about the name because we already talked about it. It's not a 10-day.
Do you want to talk nose on this real quick?
Oh, yeah, Matt, why don't you do that? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for reeling me back in, Matt. See, I get one drink in me, man. I'm like off the rails.
I get like 3 sentences a show. I'm gonna make sure I get all 3 of them in. I think the nose on this is really, really clean and really refreshing.
Yeah,
it's a good contrast to the first one, the small batch bourbon that we had, which I thought brought out like a kind of a big, bold, nuttier note. I think this plays more with the rye. The rye really shines. It's got some of those bakery notes that I'll sometimes get with like a higher rye. Think of like fresh baked bread or like that cracked rye grain, almost like some green peppercorn, cardamom type notes as well. Just like fresh herbs, just like really nice, really clean, really crisp. Like crisp fruits, crisp apples.
Yeah.
Just a really, really nice nose. A great contrast to the first one too. You can tell that these are definitely different products for a different purpose. Like they were crafted that way.
I like that, Matt. You know, it kind of makes me think that because I went back and sniffed, of course, that my glass is empty, but there's still some rim. I want to pick up almost like a hint of leather now on this empty glass of that batch one. But it's like a fall, winter kind of a bourbon, you know, something like for the colder weather or something like this. This one makes me think of like spring or summer, you know, light, refreshing, like Matt said, those light herbal notes and the crisp apple, like he mentioned as well, that stands out to me also. Yeah, really nice, man. Really like it. And again, 100 proof. So there's not a huge, like an ethanol presence in there at all. It's just nice aromas coming off of that glass. So anything else you guys got on that? Or are you just going to say, we agree with Matt?
We agree with we agree with Matt. How can you top that?
That's what I always say. How can you top that? All right. Thank you, Matt, for reeling me back in on that.
Oh, no, that's fine. I got my 3 sentences. Away you go, princess.
Man, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So 10-day bourbon. We talked about that. Not a 10-day old bourbon, 6-year-old bourbon, but 10-day bourbon as the name. Who wants to jump in and talk about?
Go ahead, Rob.
So
you guys can arm wrestle for it.
So when we wanted to start our brand, a lot of it went back to the history of physicians and doctors and their role in improving and refining distillation. And we kept going back to Doctor's Blend. Actually, our company's name's Doctor's Blend Bourbon Whiskey Company. So we couldn't really get that to go through the TTB on a bottle. Doctor's Blend, it was too, they thought that was going to be promoted as a prescription or something.
Right.
So the guys that helped us with the branding kind of came up with this idea, 10-day bourbon. And because it plays to our story, if people don't know, which a lot of people don't, and that's why we get people coming up just like you said, 10-day bourbon, it's in the barrel 10 days, that's their joke. And we get to then present the story of, no, during Prohibition, the only way you could legally get whiskey or any type of alcohol was with a prescription from a doctor, dentist, or a veterinarian. So you could get the prescription, and it would be, you could get a pint, so 375 mLs every 10 days. With a prescription. So back then it would cost usually about $3 to get in to see the doctor, $3 to take the prescription for the pharmacist to then fill it, and for $6 you could get a pint of bourbon during Prohibition legally. So that's why 10-day bourbon came about.
Yep. And that's on the back label. Our marketing guys, when they came up with 10-day, thought it would be kind of catchy too, because people are going to see that and be like, 10-day?
Yeah.
What the hell is 10-day? How do you have a bourbon in 10 days? So that on the back, the very first sentence is 10-day. It's not an age statement. It's a tribute to and it tells the story. So, but it has been. And when we set up for tastings and that kind of thing, it's surprising the people that do come up and be like, 10-day? Well, tell me about 10 days. So for our marketing guys, that they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. So kind of going back to that, we talked about that toward the end of round one, going up to Liquor Barn, doing some tastings and stuff. Has the reception been pretty well? I mean, you guys...
The reception has been great. Of course, people may be always nice to your face. Right. Who knows? But everybody seems to like it. Everybody seems to love the story. And, that's one of the things that, when you look at the shelf at Liquor Barn, Total Wine, anywhere, there are oodles and oodles of brands of bourbon.
Sure.
And everybody's trying to do the same thing. I mean, we're all trying to fight for a space out here. But when Rob first came up with the idea of a bourbon that told the story about what doctors, dentists, veterinarians, the healthcare workers did during Prohibition and how you could legally get whiskey, we figured that was a good story to tell. Nobody's telling it. Now we know why, because it was such a hard story to get approved to tell through the government. But so far it's been great, because we'll have people that be like, I'm not a doctor, but my uncle is. I'm going to buy him a bottle.
Sure.
He'll love this.
Right.
He's in Chicago. I'll send him a bottle or whatever. So it's been great for that part of it. And 10 Day wasn't the first name that we had. Rob, when he texted me one night with the idea of doing a brand, and it was House Call Bourbon.
Oh yeah, it's on your website.
Yeah. He had a hand drawing of a bottle
that's right.
and that kind of stuff. And that's what Rob was alluding to earlier about looking back at the artwork from 2 years ago. And we kind of laugh, because it's like knowing what we know now. It's like that bottle would have never, they'd just thrown it straight out and be like, no, try again, boys.
So you guys, we talked about the sourcing coming from Bardstown. Let's talk a little bit about the blending. Now this one isn't a blended, it's a single barrel. But the first one was a batch. You guys blended barrels together. Is that something, were you guys doing that yourselves, or did you have enlist some assistance on that?
I mean, we had just a couple friends, people that we met in the industry that kind of helped us get some of this started. And fortunately, they helped us, and I think they helped us do a good job with it. So,
I would argue, yes, that they did. I don't think there's much argument to it. I would just make that statement that but I'm always curious to know how that process works, with different brands, because some people hire, these, master blenders or people like that that are out there for hire and come in and help them blend the barrels that they do have. And other people are just like, no, we're just going to do it ourselves, or get friends involved and kind of go, or get blind people to come and taste with them.
And honestly, I think we've gotten pretty lucky so far, because when we tasted a ton of samples of bourbons trying to find where we were wanting to go with this bourbon, and the night that we tried both of these, me and Rob both looked at each other and were like, it was kind of like the light bulb went off, and we're like, this is it.
Yeah.
And, everybody has their own flavor that they like bourbon wise. For me, when I hear you guys talk about the notes and all that, honestly, I don't know any of that stuff. I either like it or I don't.
Sure.
And so that night it was kind of like, whoa, this fits my palate. And Rob was the same way. And I think, when we decided, okay, we're going to buy X number of these barrels, and we put the money together and bought these barrels. And then when we decided to bottle it, we're like, how many are we going to bottle? Let's do 3 barrels worth. And so we grabbed 3 barrels and blended it together. And so that was our blend. I think we were probably stupid enough not to know what we were doing, but got lucky enough that it worked out.
Like,
so far.
Over there thieving, like, this one's good. This one, I like this one. And
let's put them together.
All right, let's do it.
And then batch 2 is kind of the same thing. And I haven't even tasted our batch 3 yet. We just got it bottled. And Rob keeps saying, man, this gets better every time we bottle it.
I keep saying, I'm bringing you a bottle.
It just disappears at the bar somewhere.
I thought I had more.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
Right.
I don't want Mark to think he's the only one with empty bottles in his basement, trying to make you feel better,
Appreciate that. So guys, let's talk about the creation of the brand. Let's talk about, what was it that made you finally say, because Rob, I mentioned how we kind of knew each other, that we talked on Instagram, and then we actually got together and had a few drinks and talked about the brand you guys were starting. But what was it? What finally made you just say, screw it, man, I'm just going to do this?
It was kind of saying that. No, honestly, this was like a few years for me of kind of slowly becoming a bourbon drinker. It was, I don't really drink anything else anymore, hardly ever. And then just kind of reading some history, and then, all these things. My family's Scottish, and my family came here in 1740, and they were probably, distilling their leftover corn in the Virginia countryside. I mean, it's so... all this kind of came together, and that kind of brought this brand. And I remember it vividly being at Total Wine and looking across the shelves. I hadn't been there for a while, and I looked and I said, there's like 7 or 8 new brands here since I was last here, and none of them tell this story that I think people should know that enjoy bourbon and the history behind it. And I was dumb enough to go home and mention it to my wife, and I don't know, she was crazy enough to say, let's do it. And,
Oh, wow.
and
Nice.
then I said,
That was
I
not
need
the,
some
that
other
was
guys
not the
to help.
reaction I was expecting.
Yeah, I think I recorded it. What did you say?
Can you do that one more time? Can you please speak into the microphone?
Yeah. So, and it was one of those, just Dave and Brian both enjoy it like I do. And we just started it. And really, when you say that, a friend of mine got me this book, and I'll nod to Bob Goff, who wrote this book called Dream Big. And at the end of the book, you're supposed to just write down everything that you know, like goals for you. It's basically a good book for someone I was 40 at the time. And the point of the book is you probably have either accomplished a lot of your goals that you had when you were younger, or you may have forgotten about some.
Sure.
And reassess your life. What are some goals? And getting in the bourbon industry was one of the things on my very long list. And I remember going back to it. And Brian asked me, I remember 6 months into the project, I was telling him something we need to do to get done for this. And he's like, wait a minute, are we really going to do this? And I just said, yeah, man, we're not going to be like, let things slide. We want to do this. Let's do it. Let's try. So it's kind of what got us here.
Yep, very nice. Now, were you part of you had a drinking group. You guys were buddies, you guys hung out. Were you part of that?
I was not.
Okay.
Actually.
You'd probably come over once or twice, yeah.
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 I was there one time. I think it never worked out that I could get over there. But, the night my youngest son, who's now 17, Nate came to me and said, "Are you and Dr. Rob starting a bourbon company?" And I said, "I don't know. What are you talking about?" About that time, the text came through of the drawing that he had. He said, "What do you think about this?" And so that's kind of what started the whole thing. And immediately I said, "Yes, I'm in. I'm doing this." I had a chance many, many years ago to buy a defunct distillery. And what stopped us from doing it at the time, I had some other friends that were wanting to do it. None of us knew how to distill bourbon.
Right.
And we didn't know how to get a master distiller. If I've known what I know now, it's just you get enough money and you go steal one from somebody.
Sure, man.
So that fell through, and I've always regretted not doing that, especially because this was right when the bourbon started really taking off again. But so when Rob texted, I was like, yes, I'm in. I'm not going to let this go by and not do this, so let's do it. If nothing else, we'll have a lot of barrels of bourbon that we'll have for the rest of our life and never have to go to the liquor store again. So
obviously your 17-year-old son was into it, right? He's like,
yeah. Well, he just because Rob's son said something to him about it. Probably, you know how that is. But yeah, so they've been supportive. I've got an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old, and they both they get in trouble because they go to a private school, Christian school, but they'll wear their 10-day stuff and they have to cover up bourbon under it. And that kind of stuff. But they support us, so.
So, you know what? I don't think I asked this question. You may have said, but how did you guys meet? How did you guys get to know each other? I don't know if we talked about
our
that.
kids.
Okay.
At the same school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And the medical dental world's so small, it's like we know all kinds of people, and
In common.
our paths just never crossed.
Yeah.
So.
Now, your other partner, though, he's not here in Lexington, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how'd you guys know?
So Brian and I did residency together.
Okay.
Yep. Although I look younger than him, he's a year younger than me. But
he actually looks a lot older than myself, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I just can't wait for him to hear this. But, he's a super guy, and and he's been very supportive in this. He's got a very busy schedule, and so he's not able to attend as much as as he'd like. But
Now, he's over in Eastern Kentucky, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. But since Brian's not here, that means you guys can talk all the shit about him you want to. That's just the way.
Right.
That's the way it works, right?
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, he's the silent partner.
But if he was here, you'll see that he's not silent.
He's not silent. He's not silent at all, right?
He'd probably push you out of the way and just take over.
Take over. Yeah. He'd be like, welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your new host.
That's right.
I'd be like, great, I can talk more. Speaking of talking more, Matt, let's talk about that. We're almost at the end of the round.
Did you know that you wanted to do a higher rye mash bill? Or when you went into it, did you have ideas for what products you might want to release?
Well, to be honest, the night that we tasted these samples, it was kind of like, whoa, we need to do both these.
Yeah.
And I was never a high rye fan. I just started drinking some high ryes. I always liked the wheated bourbon. Mm-hmm. And the night we tried that, and it was pretty hot when it was straight out of the barrel, we watered it down, just a couple of drops of water to try to proof it to 100, and man, it made it so drinkable and so good. I was like, whoa. And we tell people that now, you know, Rob really likes a small batch. I'm a big fan of this high rye, and I never was a high rye fan, but I do like it.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. It was one of those, I knew kind of what I liked, and I knew, so we were looking for things kind of with some mash bills that would be similar, but the high rye was not on our radar at all.
Yeah.
And we tried those, and it's kind of funny when we do these tastings, people are hesitant. I think a lot of people are new to bourbon, like, I don't know if I can handle a high rye. And I say, hey, there's a lot of people that come in here and they say that. And this guy across the table from me was one of them. He's like, I don't, and he loves it. And so a lot of people come in, they're really surprised how smooth and easy it is to drink. So.
Yeah, and that's a great kind of segue into the palate and finish, Matt. What do you?
It's funny. Rye will make a believer out of people. It's
I agree.
It can go a lot of different ways, and I really like the palate with this. To me, it strikes like a really nice balance between like a sweet minty herbal tea and also like some citrus, some lemony citrus notes. Like this almost drinks kind of like an Arnold Palmer.
Oh, okay.
If you can think of like that mixture between like sweet tea and lemonade.
Yep, lemonade. Yep.
Yeah. So like it has those flavors to me really come across the palate well, but then the finish, that rye is super present, like nice and peppery, good and spicy, good herbal notes coming down. The corn certainly makes itself known as well too, like in that finish as well. There's just that softness that's kind of rounded out so that the rye doesn't take over. But this is just, I really enjoyed the first round, the small batch, but this is great. This is just like perfect afternoon sipping bourbon.
Yeah, in case you guys don't know, Matt is a high rye fan.
I do like a good rye.
I knew this would be right in his wheelhouse.
Nashville.
Awesome.
Yeah. So once we started tasting it, I was like, yeah, man, Matt's going to be thrilled with this. And again, it kind of goes back to what I said before. You know, it makes me think like this is a spring, summer type of drink. Even put a cube, and I don't drink ice in my bourbon usually, but this would be so refreshing. Just drop a nice big block in there, let it cool it down some, and man, it would just be so nice. But Matt, I like what you said, you know, that tea combination with that lemon, because I get like a lemongrass on the palate. But then it also, you know, finishes out with that spiciness from the rye, which is just a really nice, and it's like the first batch in that it was kind of sweet up front, and then that spice from the rye, even though it was lower rye, kind of took over on the palate. Kind of the same thing here, but that up front palate is just so different than the first one that we had. So very, very nice job. So guys, anything else you want to add on the palate and finish on this? Disagree with Matt.
Disagree with Matt. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, that's the thing that a lot of people will say. They're like, you know, people that can't put it into words like you are, that's what we hear. It was just really drinkable. It was really, really
it seems
good.
like I've heard somebody else say it was like an Arnold Palmer too. I don't know, maybe one of the tastings we've done somewhere, that seems like somebody else said that same things.
It strikes that perfect balance, and I love a good rye or a high rye product that really brings forth like the minty herbal notes, and to me this fits really well. There's a little bit of pepper there, but like nice bright mint and spearmint and just like those good green herbs on the end. I really like it. I think it's done really well.
Yep, I would agree with that. Well, guys, we are at the end of round two. Matt, I'd ask your final thoughts, but I think you just
there they are.
Kind of gave us all that, right? And I agree, man. Very nice. Again, 6 years old, 100 proof, 51.45, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very, very nice. Sourced from the bourbon capital of the world. But yeah, really, really good stuff, guys. So, well, let's take a quick break and get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back. Sorry, guys. We'll be back with more with Rob Wilson, David Thornton with 10 Day Bourbon in just a minute.
Three Chords line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they called Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
Bluegrass Distillers is a craft distillery with a passion for producing exceptional bourbon. They're committed to the art of distillation, using locally sourced grains to create a distinct and flavorful bourbon that captures the essence of Kentucky's rich whiskey heritage. Bluegrass Distillers takes pride in their small batch, hands-on approach, ensuring quality and attention to detail in every bottle they make, like their limited release 9-year-old Elkwood Reserve Bourbon, which is currently available for purchase at their brand new Visitor Center in Midway, Kentucky, their distillery in Lexington, and select stores throughout Kentucky. And with their new distillery slated to begin operation in spring of 2024, you'll be able to pick up even more exceptional spirits from them, like their wheated bourbon and their blue corn bourbon in the spring and fall. For more details and to plan your visit, check out their website at bluegrassdistillers.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and sadly final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here tonight live, still, thanks for hanging out, is my good buddy, Matt. Matt, how you doing down there?
Hey, Mark, I'm doing great. I never miss the opportunity for a live show for us, right?
Heck yeah, man, this is a lot of fun. I love doing these, and I love the fact that people are willing, finally, after 4 years, to come to the creepy basement and hang out.
You lured me into this creepy basement a lot longer than 4 years ago.
Oh, that's true, man, but I promise
Maybe
you
I was
bourbon.
just like a trendsetter.
Maybe you are.
Everybody's now catching on.
Everybody's catching on to Matt.
No, I don't think that's it. But
Probably
anyway,
not.
Yeah.
But you know,
That's why we're here.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I promised bourbon, empty bottles of bourbon,
Yeah, right.
everywhere, right? But we're having a good time, man, tonight. So we're going to wrap it up here with round 3. But we are the Bourbon Life Podcast, presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support and the support of all of our sponsors. We could not do this show, of course, without their help. So thank you guys for all that. Matt, with that said, you want to tell everybody who we have with us still hanging out with us, and they stayed for round 3.
That's right. Back again for round 3. Joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever it is we are getting you are getting your Bourbon Life podcast. We have the co-founders of 10 Day Bourbon, Rob Wilson, David Thornton, back in the studios. Gentlemen, round 3, welcome on back.
Thank you.
Thank you for not kicking us out.
That's right.
We're happy to be here.
No, man, this is a lot of fun. Like I said, we were talking about doing this before and wasn't able to work it out, man. So I'm just happy we're able to.
Yeah,
and
it's
this
such last minute notice.
I know,
as
short
well.
notice for you guys,
thank
man. I'm
we
sorry
appreciate
about that.
We're used to being on call. We know what it's like.
Yeah, true story.
But yeah, no doubt, man. Who else are you going to call? Right? It's like, we got doctors, man. Okay, they're used to this. They're cool with it. We'll just page them.
You know, just like any of the other, you had to run it past the wife. So
Yeah, that's right.
the
That's
wives
right.
were okay, so we're good.
Yeah. Well, I guess you guys you don't have pagers anymore. You always think of doctors and pagers. I think of Caddyshack.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Dr. Beeper. He
Dr.
grabs
Beeper.
his-
Yeah, absolutely. I was probably the
Snake
last.
tube down his throat.
That's
I'll
a
be
good.
there in 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, my God, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome, man. We're just going off the rails, man.
That could be a whole other show right there, a whole Caddyshack show.
Caddyshack quotes, man, for sure. So, well, we are drinking some great stuff, and we got something poured up here that is not yet available. But if you guys want to share with us what we've got poured up in this fancy little non-labeled
Yeah, that's
bottle.
right. The nondescript.
That's right. I love those bottles. Those
yeah.
are the funnest bottles right there, right?
Oh, they're great. I know. I'm never labeling it. I know. I have just a few of them there, so I know what's in them. But they look so good over in my little bourbon lounge.
Oh, yeah. People are like, what's that?
Yeah. Well, I've learned years ago the best thing, if you have a bottle of a sought-out bourbon and you have people over, they're invariably going to go to that bottle. But the way to sneak around that is just put it in your decanter. Nobody ever
knows.
Right,
goes
yeah.
and says, let's drink out of your decanter. I probably had 2 people in my whole life ever ask me, hey, what's in that? Can we drink that?
That's a great point, man.
Oh, you just gave your secret away.
Oh, yeah. Next time I go to
yeah.
Rob's.
Hey,
See?
let's
Yeah.
edit that out.
Yeah.
Wait, but now I know that. So if I ever get invited back to join the group for drinks, I'll be like, hey, Rob, screw these bottles, bro.
Yeah.
Where's that
decanter?
man? What am I drinking in here?
See, my house is just the opposite. I usually take whatever little bit of left in the
Leftover
bottles,
and
I
make
pour
my
in the
infinity.
decanters, my own
Yeah.
blend of
Yeah.
God knows what that stuff's going to taste like, but it works.
I used to keep notes. I'd be like, half ounce of Elijah Craig batch A.
Oh, nice.
And then after 6 or 7 pours,
It
I'm
doesn't
like,
matter. You're never gonna be able to replicate or chase any of the flavors out of
for
it.
myself, I wanted to know what was in my infinity bottle, but I quit.
Yeah.
After
Right,
the
you're
first 6 or 7, I was
Oh,
like,
it's got to be that 2% of this that I'm tasting. Oh, yeah.
it made the difference.
That's when you're really good at the
Yeah.
palate right
Now,
there.
see, Matt would be able to pick that out. He'd be like,
No, see, that's just called BSing, though.
All right. Yeah.
so let's talk about this one. What you got poured up here for us, if you can share with us?
So this is a future, at least in what we're looking at coming out with. It's going to be called Prohibition blend. I guess I can say that. But it's a blend we did with a 6-year wheated and a 7-year traditional mash. We're just messing around with it, playing, seeing about, are we going to do this or not? But we wanted to bring you over. We've got a couple other things down the road, but this is definitely something that we've enjoyed sipping on after we got it. So I thought we'd bring it over to you and let you try it out.
Now, is this proof down to 100 proof? Or is
Yes.
This, okay. All right. I was going to say.
Yeah, we're trying to stick with that again, just with the Prohibition era. So 100 proof.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So when you guys are blending, speaking of blending, are you just kind of going to like what you talked about earlier, like you know what you like you're not looking for specific notes,
Correct.
but you know what you like to drink. Right. So is that kind of the way you're doing your blending? It's like, yeah, maybe we want these notes, but you're really kind of more like, this just tastes good.
It's more about taste for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think we know, like when we're trying to do a blend, either a wheated and traditional or maybe a high rye, we're trying to just kind of mix those different notes and see when we thieving stuff and trying it, what seems to work. So,
well, that makes sense. So that small batch we had the first round, that was batch 2, right?
Batch 2.
And you're working
correct.
on batch 3.
batch 3's been bottled. That'll be coming out soon.
So it will taste different. I mean, there will be a different taste from batch to batch, right? So it's not, and I like that, especially with smaller brands that are doing things, that from batch to batch, you're going to get variation. Yes. You're not just like, oh, we've got to make it taste exactly like the other 2 batches that we put out. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Our small batch, the way you described it, it's kind of that bold flavor up front and very kind of complex. A lot of those traditional bourbon notes that you get will hopefully continue, because that, again, that's what you talk about. This is our brand. This is what I like a lot. So we're talking about, we want to carry that forward, and if we can get some different notes to come out with different batches, that's what we're hoping to do.
Yeah, well, and that makes a lot of sense, because it's kind of like you've got a baseline, what you're shooting for, but then you get variations between the different batches. So which is really cool, and I kind of respect that. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I certainly do. And will that stick around like a 6-year age?
That's what we're hoping. We had people ask us at tastings, you don't have an age statement on your bottle, and we usually say, well, it was because the challenge to get this label with any kind of hint of the history of medicine approved through the government and the TTB. I didn't want to have to continue if we did change the age. Say one from 6
to redo,
or 7 or 5.
Redo labels.
So we just kind of left that off. But I think that mash bill around when you look at other distilleries and that have a similar notes on tasting and smelling, I think that 5 to 6 years is a really good time period for it. So we want to stick around the 6 years.
Yeah, that makes it. So the single barrel we had round 2, I forgot to ask what the retail was on that round retail.
The Liquor Barn has it, I think, at 85.
Yeah, $84.99.
Okay,
yep.
yeah,
$84.99.
I mean, for a single barrel 6-year-old, again, that's a respectable price. There's no question about that. So very, very cool. So no plans yet in terms of release on this Prohibition blend, but it's out there potentially to come down the pike sometime.
Yeah, the mad scientist, Dr. Rob over there, has been concocting these, trying to come up with that Prohibition blend. But we are talking about doing a wheated bourbon as well.
Because that's what that's your thing.
I like wheated bourbon, although this high rye has become my fave, but wheated bourbon is the next one that's down the pipeline along with our Surgeon's Cup.
Do you have a favorite wheated bourbon?
Yes, I do.
Can you say what that is?
Absolutely, Weller Special Reserve. That's been my drink for a long, long time before 10 Day came along, and used to be able to get it fairly easy, but not anymore. But I've had my sources, and I still get bottles, and I stockpile them and that kind of thing. But now I've got new faves, so
I'm the same way, man. I'd buy handles of Weller, and I got random handles throughout this basement, and that's actually for a hot toddy. That's my favorite bourbon to use in a hot toddy, which sounds weird, but there's something about that wheated 90 proof that just is perfect. Sounds like I need a hot toddy tonight. So Matt, let's talk about the nose on this Prohibition blend. What do you pick up on this?
It's a good balance here. So I have a little bit of the batch 2 that we had in the first round left over in my glass, and I've been going back to that as kind of like the baseline bourbon nose on it. And I can pick up parts of that. I think it really shines through, part of it in the nose on this, but also that wheated component, the wheated mash bill, takes it in another direction as well. So there's those familiar caramels and kind of that bold corn note right on the nose. But I think the wheat really plays with this and takes it in a sweeter direction too.
Yep.
There's like nougat and marshmallow, almost like a pulled taffy, like a vanilla taffy kind of nose. And then I don't know if I'm just like getting something crazy here, but I'm almost like picking up some tropical fruit, like papaya, or like not quite pineapple, but maybe even like a touch of melon or something. Like I think that wheated mash bill is really playing with this and like opening it up into some brighter fruit notes as well on the nose, almost like creamy, custardy fruit kind of note.
You know, I was thinking, for me, sometimes on wheated mash bills, I get almost like a strawberry kind of aroma. So, Matt, I was kind of leaning towards that, but now you got me thinking tropical fruits. I'm like, maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm off a little bit on that. But I agree, man. You talk about the notes coming through from that batch too, and I can see that for sure. But yeah, it's just really a nice combination of flavors here. Nice blend on this for sure. So, anything you guys want to add in terms of the nose on that? Anything that?
No. Y'all nailed it again. What can we say?
Matt nailed it. We just all concur.
That's right.
We just all concur with Matt, right?
We'll go to the expert down here.
Yeah, no doubt. So, guys, you got that coming up. What other things going? Well, let's talk about the bottles. I mentioned that in the break, man, because those are really some really nice looking bottles, nice looking labels. Can you talk about that design process? Who you worked with? How you guys came up with all that?
So, when we were working with our marketing guys, we had the theme for the Prohibition to tell the story. They were great. First time I've ever worked with marketing people. They give you, a whole pamphlet of stuff, and they want you to mark what you like, what you don't like, that kind of thing. And so they kind of put it together to get the font, the bottle, the label. And we were trying to find a bottle that kind of went with that, that old time Prohibition medicinal whiskey look. It would have been great in a simple bottle type thing. We didn't want something too fancy.
We're nerdy. Like we researched. We went back and looked at a lot of the bottles that were around during that time period, that were made for medicinal purposes.
And so it was kind of that shape of bottle. And then we decided on this bottle, we started looking at a bunch of bottles, but this one really stuck out to us. And a big reason was because we were like, man, that takes up a lot of real estate on a shelf. It's broad, it's big,
sure,
and it's imposing. It's tall. It makes its presence.
It's got
there.
Broad shoulders, right?
That's right, broad shoulders. That's right.
Yeah, big boy.
That's right. So that was kind of where we went with the marketing team that helped us. And Rob and I went to a guy that had bottles for sale. He's in the bourbon whiskey bottling business, or not bottling, but bottles. And he had a garage just full of bottles. He kind of knew what we were after and just started showing us bottles. And we brought home probably a dozen bottles, started looking at them and kind of holding them. And Rob kind of did a quick print of our label, what we thought we were going to have as a label, put it on there, and trying to really come up with the concept and the idea. But I think it worked out great.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. And I love, the name pops out so nice on the labels. I mean, you can read it from far away, right? So you know what it is. No questions about, other than whether or not it's actually aged for 10 days.
That's
I think
right.
that's the only question.
It made it a little bit tough because we have to hand label them. It's not like a nice simple round bottle
it's not a round
that most
bottle.
of these new brands are doing that you can run through the label.
Yeah.
They do make labelers for these. We just haven't got to that point yet. So we're still hand labeling them. So you'll see sometimes that the labels aren't quite perfect.
Those are the ones I did. I can't quit my day job to become a labeler.
A bottle label, yeah.
Just to give a little shout out to the guys that helped us with the branding and everything. Nick Child and AJ Hawkalder. He was a part of a great documentary called Neat.
Oh,
if you saw that.
Yeah.
He was one of the producers.
Very nice.
And they were very helpful in helping us get this set up and the look where we had this play. If you look at the top of our bottle here, this is a play on the the medical symbol known as the caduceus. So they just did a great job with the flow. I remember looking up fonts in the 1920s, just trying to kind of figure out what could we make it look of that era. And, our marketing guy, Brady Trapnell, has been really helpful at getting this kind of going out. And
Very cool. So now I'm looking at the bottle and thinking about, holding it and stuff. Are you guys doing like on-premise stuff with like bars and restaurants and stuff as well? Or is it mostly right now just going to the liquor stores and getting that kind of distribution set up?
Mostly liquor stores. We are in a few bars. OBC has a bottle.
Oh, yeah.
And Malone's in Louisville, they picked up a bottle each.
Obstinate Sons
Obstinate
and
Sons
Chevy
just
Chase
picked one
is
up.
getting some bottles.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we
Paddock.
haven't been going around as much yet to do that. Again, you
Yeah.
talked about
It's a whole other world,
the
right?
busyness of life. It's hard
Sure,
to
man.
find. They like you to come in around on working hours, right? Coming in after 5 o'clock, they kind of scold you. I'm like, come on, I'm wearing scrubs. But we're hoping to get more availability in some bars and restaurants as well.
Yeah, that's cool because it would look great, like you said, sitting on the shelf. People would notice that. That would really just stand out, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The Paddock Club.
oh yeah,
Yep, the Bourbon Paddock Club.
The Bourbon
Yep.
Paddock Club,
Eric.
we are there.
Yep,
that
Eric.
Eric?
They've been very, very helpful. We're going to start doing tastings and things over there as
Oh, you
well.
really?
So,
Okay.
Yeah,
I've not been to the new club. I mean, but
it's really nice. They did a
heard.
great job with it.
that's what I've seen pictures, and Eric had reached out about it, and I need to follow up with him and go check that out. So it sounds like they're doing a really good job with everything. So guys, I'm just curious. We talked about the new release we're drinking, the Prohibition. Other things coming up on the horizon that you guys can talk about or want to talk about, or any exciting news that you want to share with us?
Hey, I have a son graduating. That's and so does David.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey, congratulations to you both.
Tomorrow's actually their last full day of high
Last
school.
full day of
so
school, they go on
that's
their senior
exciting.
trip
They've
Friday.
been
Shout out to
They've been checked out for a while.
Oh,
Been
they have
having-
been.
Yeah,
Since
for sure.
February.
They've been
So-
hitting the bottles of bourbon. You guys think is still full of bourbon.
We're really proud of them. Now I'm going to go home and check those open bottles. But we do have a couple things coming out. We have we have another. It's an 8-year product that'll be coming out called Surgeon's Cut. That'll come out probably in the fall, maybe winter. Really, really good. We're also going to start a barrel pick program this summer.
Okay. Nice.
So we're going to offer that for different groups of people, and hopefully some different restaurants and retailers would consider doing that with us. It's funny, I have, like we were talking about some old friends from school. I have some friends that are surgeons, and and I kind of just showed them what was coming down the pipeline of Surgeon's Cut. They literally, I have 2 groups of medical bourbon groups that are like, yes, we'll come down this summer. I said, well, it's not set up yet, but we're going to do that. So it's been fun to kind of to have people kind of connect the dots of bourbon whiskey history and our product. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, you guys, you don't have like a retail space or a space like that, but are you working for, how will you do a barrel pick? I mean, where would people come to do that? Can you got something lined up?
So all our stuff is stored, and we bottle at Old Louisville Whiskey Company in Louisville.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
So we'll talk to Amin there. He's already doing it, so hopefully he'll allow us to do it there as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I don't know him either, but I know
great
his brand.
guy.
I know his name. I know the brand
Great,
and everything. So.
great bourbon he has, and Amin's been really great to us.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those where you meet somebody who's very honest and just has a great trustworthiness about him, and he's been very helpful for us, just trying to help us get things moving. And so we're going to start doing that this summer with him out at the Old Louisville Whiskey Company.
Very cool, man. That's great. All right, so Brad Williams, if you're out there listening with Liquor Barn,
Yeah.
Make sure you get in on that.
That's right. Barrel pick.
And bring us along too, Brad, so we can help pick that barrel.
Can I be there too? Is that okay?
There you go, man.
All right, sweet. All right.
That's right. Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I think we're required. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or
Now,
I'm going to say we are.
Yeah.
so here's another question I'll ask David. You talked earlier about before that you'd looked at a non-functioning or non-working distillery buying. Is that something that you guys have thought or talked about potentially down the road? Is that something?
We have, as Rob mentioned before, it might have been off camera, goals. And when we started this, Rob is very pen to paper oriented and wrote down goals, and that is one of our goals. Our biggest goal was to start this without going super in debt, which we have managed to do. It's been out-of-pocket expenses so far, a lot of out-of-pocket expenses, but we're not in debt, so we feel comfortable where we are. And, our goal is hopefully in year 2, we're still in our infancy. I mean, this is 6 months that this bottle's been out. So hopefully down the road, we will look at for maybe a retail spot to kind of have our storage, do our own bottling there, do barrel picks, that kind of thing. And then at some point, if things keep progressing and we're still around, I would love to find a place to either buy and start distilling, or maybe get our own place and start distilling.
Yeah, I mean, what's really kind of in the near future is we're talking to some other states. Like right now, we're only in Kentucky in retail. We do use Bourbon Outfitters, but
For online
so
sales.
we're looking at some other states, Tennessee and Georgia and Texas. So I think we're going to be slowly get more availability, and as that kind of hopefully continues to grow, then I mean, those are all the 5 to 7 year plan.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Well, you guys are kind of busy with some other stuff. So, I mean,
Picking boogers, all the ENT stuff. Yeah.
No doubt. Well, Matt, we're almost at the end of round 3 here. So let's jump back to the whiskey. What do you pick up in terms of the palate and the finish on this one?
I think the wheat really shows up on the palate with this one. It's got that really familiar fresh baked bread note to me, where like I pick up a good amount of the yeast too. It's just got like this big kind of like full mouthfeel, yeasty, almost like pancake batter type flavor to
I'm
it.
getting hungry.
I know, you and I both. Your whiskey's doing it to us here.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
But just really nice. I think the wheat makes a really good balance to chase out some of like those stronger notes that come from the bourbon. Like that nutty note isn't there. I think the wheat plays with a good balance. And then the finish on this, like, just comes back for more. It dies out, but then there's just like this second round of just that warm kind of like toasty wheat note, like a little bit of cherry almost coming back on the end. I think this is going to be a great product when it hits the market. This will be one to look for.
Matt, talk about that cherry, that light, just like a hint of cherry, and then actually get almost like a hint of leather on this as well. And that finish kind of just jumping in and out there. It kind of comes, I can kind of pick it out just a little bit. But yeah, pretty much everything Matt said on that, I agree with. But that cherry, I love it when I can pick up a little hint of cherry on something, and this really has it. So again, man, great job, great blend on this. So
Thank you.
Our new master blender, Dr. Rob.
yeah, I was gonna say, change your title, not just co-founder and master blender.
That's right.
I mean, just as last week, I get to say certified bourbon steward.
There you go.
Yeah.
Why not add another one? Right.
Thanks,
Add
Master Rob.
another label. So I like to ask our guests this question on all of our shows. So what has been, I mean, you've only been at it not a long time, but you've been at it for a while. You're getting there. So what's been your favorite part of the journey so far for you, Rob?
Well, for me, it was the start. I mean, this was kind of like, doing an art project, really. I mean, it was, I get to create something. And now that I remember when we were over there, we actually when we bottled and we were holding it. And I got the picture of David, and I'm like, it's like he's holding it like it's a baby. But it was just
my third born.
the whole process, it's just totally different. But, and also just learning, the process of, I thought medicine was regulated. I mean, alcohol industry is unbelievable. And just to see and learn, some entrepreneurial skills that I didn't know I had, and a lot of things to pick up and learn about. So it's been, all of that to where we are today. Yeah.
So I'm just curious because, I mean, obviously being a doctor, you don't think of that as being necessarily super creative. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's very intense. And it's like, being an attorney for me, it's not a creative outlet, So the Bourbon Life Podcast for me kind of affords me that creativity that I lack in my job. I mean, you talk about this being kind of an art project. So is this more of like a creative release for you as well? Or?
Oh yeah. I paint and do other things. So I'm kind of, I remember, never forget my chemistry professor my freshman year in college. He used to always say, "Oh, are you going to be a man of science? Or are you one of those artsy fartsy people?" And I always remember, like, why can't I be both?
Why can't you be both, right?
So, for me, it was very much like seeing a piece of art come to life.
Sure.
And it's been great.
Very cool.
And we all do have our own little thing, like in a sense, it's nice to have a team because, David is very knowledgeable, hardworking, personable, and Brian, our silent partner, who's not nearly as good looking and as smart as us, but
Very old.
He's a great guy, and very good looking at a lot of the business stuff with us as well, and the contracts, and so it's a very good. We all kind of can play off each other with that.
Very cool. David, what about you?
I'm like Rob. The journey has been awesome so far, and I'm still, the day we bottled and saw it finally to fruition.
Yeah.
2 years of getting to that point that we've got a product in a bottle. That hopefully soon after that, it took a little bit to get a distributor to get it to where we could sell it. And now seeing it on the shelf, going to Liquor Barn, going to do tastings or talking to people about bourbon, and just meeting the people along this journey and learning everything about bourbon. It is amazing how much goes into a product, into a brand. I've never developed a brand ever, and this has been awesome. And I'm still looking forward to that day when I can stand outside our distillery and look at that and go, we finally made it. This is where we're at, and hopefully that will come true one day. But even if it doesn't, this has been fun. It's been great meeting people like you and Matt. It's been awesome.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun tonight too, hanging out with you guys. And we've talked about the future, what it looks like. Appreciate you sharing that. So where can people find out more information about the brand? And you mentioned the products are available in Kentucky and online at Bourbon Outfitters, right? Okay. Where can they get more information, though, about the brand if they're interested in that?
Go ahead.
Our website, 10daybourbon.com, and Instagram's kind of a big outlet for us as well.
Yep.
And we're on Facebook as well, but really off the website's probably the biggest. You can go and there'll be information. We're going to have a newsletter that'll be coming out quarterly as well for people to sign up to continue to learn more about, especially these upcoming releases we're doing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we do have merchandise there.
Yep.
On the
we
website.
do,
which
yeah.
you can
Some
buy.
shirts, you guys.
Shirts,
some
hats,
shirts
that
there.
stuff,
For sure,
yeah.
man. Awesome. So final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up.
I just want to say thank you for having us, even if it was short notice. I know we were trying to do this a while back. So when Rob called me last night, I'm like, we'll make this happen. Let's do it. So I appreciate it. Love the kind words about our bourbon. I'm glad you all liked it. And I'm just looking forward to down the road here. I can't wait till we get our surgeons cut out. And when we get a wheated one out as well, not the Prohibition blend, but we're going to do a wheated bourbon as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm just excited, looking forward to hopefully getting some distribution in some more states, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, Florida. We're working on those states right now. So hopefully we'll get that expansion going.
Yeah,
so it'll be good.
Very nice, man.
Yeah.
That's Rob.
Yeah, same. Just glad to be here. Enjoy listening to you guys' podcast anyway. It's been fun to see you grow and
Thanks, man.
and do all this. I know it's an extra bit of work for all of us, but it's a passion. That's, I remember somebody saying, if you do it when there's no passion, it's no good. But if you do it and there's a passion behind it, it makes it all the worthwhile. So we love this, and we hope that other people will enjoy the story and enjoy our bourbon and go out and buy it.
Very nice. Matt, final thoughts before we wrap it up, man.
Guys, it's really great to get down, see you here, connect with you, and just see you all doing well and get to meet some good people that are doing great things in the industry. And to hear, everybody talks about Prohibition and few people know the story behind it, but to get to see a brand really bringing that story to where the 10 Day Bourbon came from and where this whole story came out of Prohibition is really cool. And to have it done by you two people who are now doctors or medical professionals yourself, couldn't be more heartfelt, more genuine. So we really appreciate that. Great story, really great products. We love what you all are doing. Can't wait to see things down the road. And looking forward to seeing you around town again.
All right,
Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, thank you guys again. Short notice, man, but thank you so much for being here. Happy you guys were able to make it, and congratulations. I mean, what you're putting out, it's great stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of people would take an easy route and get something that's 2 years old and put it out and be like, hey, here's our bourbon, man. But you guys got great products, 6 years old or older, 100 proof, man. So blending it up, doing a nice job on that. Everything we've had tonight has really been good. So I'm very, very happy for you guys. I mean, that's great. And I'm really curious to see how things work out continuing down the road with new product releases. I mean, if they're as good as what you've already got, then you guys are setting yourself up for quite a bit of success, man. So
Thank you.
really excited about that, and congratulations on all the success. Congratulations on the gold medal. That's huge.
Thank you. Yeah.
As well. And can't wait to see you guys continue to grow and what you come up with next. And we'll do this again. Have you back maybe next year or whatever, come back and
Would love it.
do a catch up. And, like Matt said, hopefully see you guys around, get together, have some drinks or whatever, and just hang out, man.
Sounds good.
Hit that decanter. I'm gonna get that decanter bottle,
Well,
man.
hey, we get invited on the RV trip. We'll bring a decanter.
That's right, man.
All right.
That's right. We'll do that. That'll work. Well, guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
We are the Bourbon Life
thanks,
Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. Again, we appreciate their support. We appreciate the support of all our sponsors. And we thank you guys, our listeners. Like Matt always says, whatever time of day it is, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is, you get your Bourbon Life fix. We appreciate you guys checking us out and hanging out with us, spending time listening to us. If you want to find us, you can reach us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can join our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. We have a lot of fun conversations and things going on in there, so please feel free to join us there. You can also email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions, other than me clearing my throat, we'll be happy to listen to those suggestions. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. We'd really appreciate that. Don't forget also to check out the Whiskey Trip. Our good friend Mike, Big Tex, as Matt likes to call him, Big Chief Hyatt. He's doing a great show called the Whiskey Trip that comes out under our umbrella every Tuesday. So make sure you check him out. Give him a like and follow on Instagram as well and Facebook. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. Send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the Bourbon Life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the Bourbon Life.
Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their exclusive Behind the Beam tour and monthly Claremont Supper Club events, which will feature their 2024 Bardstown Bourbon Collection James B. Beam Distilling Company release on June 13th. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family.